This is the 217 Recovery Podcast with Corey Winfield.
This is going back to the letter that you didn't find. Sorry, Corey's mom.
June 28, 2020. It is the 217 Recovery Podcast. Thanks for listening. My name is Corey Winfield. Joining me in the studio tonight again, Marnie Liston. Marnie, what's up?
Hello there.
Doing all right?
Doing good. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing okay. Kind of frustrated, though. We're going to review the review of our podcast from those guys in Wichita. They did it on Thursday on their show. And they said some nice things. I'm going to play that. But the frustrating part is I'm trying to get you to hear it through your headphones. That's not happening. And I don't know. I think I figured out why, but there's nothing we can really do about it. So
That's right.
You're just going to have to agree with what I say, okay?
I've heard it before.
Yeah, you heard the review, so I mean you kind of know what it is, but those guys from Wichita, they're a podcast. Looks like they've been going since 2010, so they got 10 years under them, and they're a comedy show, and it sounds like about 3 or 4 different dudes, and they all kind of have their own angle on what they got going on. They do long podcasts; they're like a couple hours. At least this one was, and they seem like they know what they're doing. So. You know, what they said about other podcasts, they weren't really too mean on some, but if they didn't like it, they didn't really sugarcoat it. If the people sounded like crap, they kind of were like, hey, man, why don't you get some new mics? But yeah, so without further delay, we can get into that. Those guys from Wichita, this is their podcast from their night with the review of the 217 Recovery Podcast.
2 more left. Speaking of addictions, this other one, the 217 Recovery.
Oh, boy.
And I'm thinking, what's this about? It's right there. They nailed the title there. I don't know what 217 stands for, but
it's an area code.
Just a...
Okay, first I have to say, and if you're a 217 Recovery ambassador and you listen to the show regularly, you know 217 Recovery is based on 217, the room that I was in the last time I was in treatment. And a lot of people do think it's an area code. The guy goes on to say he thought it was a record label. I'm not sure. Maybe 5150 from Van Halen is what he's referencing, or I don't know. But he goes on to say that. But yeah, 217 was the room that I was in, and the reason why 217 Recovery is because the talks that I had in that room with Rob and Matt really changed how I viewed myself and how I reacted and how I acted. And processing the things that happen during the day in a treatment center can be very traumatic for some. And, you know, there were times we had to walk Matt down, and Matt and I had to walk Rob down. They had to kind of, you know, take me off the ledge before, too. And it's just that bond that was created in 217 was something that I wanted to do with this podcast, was creating a bond with other people and sharing something of myself. You know, like, this is our safe room. You know, this is your safe podcast you can come to and, you know, hear about addiction and straight up honesty. So that's kind of where that came from. So back to the review.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, whatever.
Say the title again.
217 Recovery.
I'm thinking
Misconnection.
I thought they're finding something from there. I thought this is
I thought it was a record. Finally, a record podcast.
like camel towings
Exactly.
coming out.
This sounded good, and he had a co-host that was female, but I don't know if they were in a relationship. Kind of sounded like maybe
A lot of sexual tension, probably.
But he just opens it.
Okay, so this is where they talk about, well, and he's got a female co-host, and I don't know, it sounds like they're in a relationship, but not really sure, and yeah, and then the other guy's like, sexual tension? But no, yeah, we are in a relationship, so.
Did they say on there how long they listened to it? The episode?
I think he does a little bit later.
Okay.
So we'll get back into it.
Like it's, I'm assuming what an AA meeting is kind of like.
I see.
And he's not in, hi, I'm so-and-so, but it was more like, all right, did I think about doing booze today, or did I think about drinking?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
and then talked about that and talked about the times that he
Makes
has
sense
done
if
it.
it's a recovery podcast and that's
know,
who he's targeting.
But it was
Yeah.
perfect, and it was almost too real for me. It is everything he was talking about. I was like, that's exactly how I feel.
Maybe I need one of these.
I had to turn it off. Yeah, it was
217
too
in
close
Illinois.
to home.
Yeah, I was in there.
Yeah, you don't want to listen to that if you're on the fence about quitting
No.
drinking. It's going to
You
push
If you're a
Especially-
possible addict, you definitely don't want. If you
Yeah.
don't want to not
No.
be one.
Yeah, if you're absolutely an addict and you are,
If you're 3 drinks in, it's for you. You'll want to
True.
listen to it. Yeah,
you're
for
right.
Sure.
Booze does suck.
Hold on, pause this. I'm gonna go pour one.
So you're better drunk.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, it touched on all the
Much
shit
things
that you
are.
think about when you're kind of going through that as an addict, and the limited experience I have with
Sure.
it, with just keeping booze out for a couple days. I mean, obviously I struggle just the same. Now, granted, I've still kept it on my horizon. I haven't pulled it off
don't.
yet.
Yeah, don't do that.
But
Don't put it away forever.
no, and I don't think this guy has. You know what I mean?
Well, that's okay. That's right. Moderation. Everything.
And he's right. One thing he brought up was you think about it, and when you do unfortunately succumb to that thing, and you have the drink, and you kind of get that first high of your beer or whatever
Yeah.
it is, it isn't that great.
No.
But
not.
then it gets better.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, no, I mean keep drinking it, and then it's still not that great, and ultimately just feel guilty. There's part of that I
Yeah.
I can relate with.
Can you
Does he-
explain the guilt?
does he
There's
ever
an
get-
awesome part
Does he
too.
ever get to the point where he falls down and puts a big scar on his head and then wears a cap and then has to go do his podcast live on air? Did
Yeah, I don't
he
know.
get to that part?
No, he didn't get to
Okay,
that part.
all right. But keep listening.
I mean, there's downfalls with booze, and we've all had them.
There's,
Hi.
yeah, downfalls, yes, for sure.
But you can't
There's
watch
also upfalls.
You can't watch Doc
Regular
Addo from
falls,
Joe
sideways
Exotic
falls.
ride that elephant and not be hammered drunk.
Oh, for sure.
So there's
Yeah, you
times
can't do
when
that.
it doesn't matter how bad you think booze is. Get
Right.
drunk and watch that dude
Yep.
ride an elephant.
Yep.
So,
It's gonna happen.
and I think a lot of people go into that thinking when they're older, when I'm 60 or 70 or whatever it is,
Then I can hit the sauce.
I'll get back on it. And maybe that's their horizon. So,
And they ended with, talking about, I'm just kind of filling Marnie in. She, like I said, can't hear when they're, 60 or 70, they can probably drink again. And that's not what we feel. And, then they're just listening to one podcast, and we do appreciate them taking the time to listen, though, for sure, those guys in Wichita. But, we can touch on guilt. We'll touch on that, actually, because they brought that up. They're like, does he touch on the guilt? And, we have before, but yeah, the let's put it away for now thing, it doesn't work. Yeah, I had to actually get to the point where I wasn't afraid of not drinking anymore. I just had to accept that I can't drink anymore. And after you get over that, it's a lot easier for sure. Once that's not an option, you've taken that away for yourself. You have to do that. You can't leave it lingering in the back of your mind. Well, in 20 years I can drink again. I mean, if that's how you want to die, and if that's how you want to go out, then that's how you're going to go out. But I don't want to go out that way. So, no, I don't think that, and that's not what we're doing. But guilt is something that is hard. When you promise your family and a girlfriend, wife, whatever, when you promise people that you're never going to drink again, and you're overcome by this self-arrogance, ego-driven, I can do it, nobody's going to know kind of thing, and your brain just tells you, like, you can do it still, and they're not going to find out. And as long as they don't know, it doesn't matter. And ultimately, and even if, I got away with a couple weekends and no one knew, I knew, and I did feel guilty, which led to me drinking more. There's a vicious cycle. I'm sure you've heard this before too, Marnie.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, the thing you were talking about making the promises, and is that, like, for me, people in my life didn't want to hear that anymore. And so basically it's that whole attitude of, like, I got to the point where it was like, they don't want me to tell them, they want me to show them. That's what it boils down to, is that, we can talk about what we're going to do because we know we need to do it. And I promise you this and I promise you that, and I'm going to get better. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And it's just, it doesn't, you just basically, I just had to go through the motions and keep going through the motions every day, and to live that promise is all that really they want for me to do. And so, you know, I'm doing it for myself, but I'm also doing it, you know, for the people that I love and people that I care about. But for me, like, that's because what you're speaking of the, you know, just the empty promises, the broken promises, is just, it ends up hurting you, ends up hurting other people.
And dealing with that guilt is what,
Right.
you know, sends you right back into more drinking. And, you know, not that they're blaming us, but we feel like, you know, they think that we are the worst person in the world, you know, like we've just committed the most insane crime or committed the craziest sin known to man, you know. And it's not like that. I think it's more disappointment. You know, when people come to me and they tell me that, hey, yeah, I'm sober, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and yeah, okay. And then they come to me and they're like, yeah, man, I fell off. You know, I don't think that they're bad people at all. You know, I just think that, okay, well, what are you going to do different this time?
Mm-hmm. Pick yourself back up.
It's funny. I was telling the story of Rob. Love you, buddy. And, you know, he was doing great. And the next thing you know, there was a woman involved, a relationship, and things just went south quick. And I was telling the story, and I was in front of this other guy who is in early recovery. And he was telling me about this girl and this and that. And
You're
I
like,
kind
I've
of looked at
heard this
him.
one
And
before.
he just kind of looked at me. He's like, I know you're talking right to me. And I'm like, no, I'm not talking to you. I'm just talking. This is what happened. And, you know, I explained to him what happened to me once. And I sat him down, though. And I was just like, hey, man, what are you going to do if this happens? Oh, no, it's not going to, because we're like, oh, okay. So if it happens, do you have a backup plan? Are you going to be cool? You know, and I told him, I was like, man, give me a call. Like, if you need me or something, like, because you have these expectations of this is how it's going to go. And when you have those expectations, this is how it's going to go. Also, oh, not even close. You're angry, you're mad, you're because you're hurt. You know, you're hurt, you're disappointed. You know, he's telling everybody this is what's going to happen. He's going to be hooking
You're building yourself up for when you fall down. It's just, yeah.
And all the
I know
guys,
what you're
you
talking
know, that
about.
he knows all of his friends. And like, hey, what happened with old girl? Well, never happened, never showed up. Well, I thought you were, you know, and he doesn't want to face that. So I just set him up with realistic expectations of, what if it doesn't? What if a plan B? I mean, hey, if it happens and, you know, they get married and it works out, good for them. But I'm just trying to prepare him mentally, you know, for that early recovery expectation. And when you put expectations on other people, you know, to meet them, that's unfair to them, especially if someone else is in early recovery. So,
do you think that people might think that you come across as being negative or like unsupportive? Like, what's this guy's problem? Why can't he be like in my cheerleading squad? Why can't he be like rooting for me? Like, you go get her, buddy.
I don't know, because I'm a realist, I guess. I mean, yeah, I could be like, yeah. And like I just said, you know, they could get married and do whatever, and, you know, I'd be more power to him. But I just want to make sure he has the tools, because he did not think one bit that was going to happen. And now, at least, I hope he's mentally prepared. And I told him, call me if you need anything, man. Like, if this does blow up in your face and it doesn't happen, like, you know, he's painting this picture of, you know, a Picasso or... probably not a Picasso, but anyway, he's painting this beautiful picture. You know, these are the way things are going to go in his head, you know, and once he meets the girl, and, you know, I'm just like, oh my God, like, this is, it's gotten disaster written all over it, but it could have true love story and could be a movie one day, you know, it could be, but it also could be a huge disaster. So I was just kind of preparing him for that. And he's like, yeah, but she said this. And I was like, yeah, you know, and the girl, when I was in treatment, the girl said that too. And, you know, that didn't work out, luckily, and that wasn't going to work out anyway. And I didn't let that get the best of me. I was prepared mentally. You know, I knew what I wanted and I knew what I didn't want. But he seems to be just jumping off the deep, you know, jumping off the jumping board right into the deep end. And who cares, you know? And that's very dangerous when you're in early recovery. And I'm not saying wait a year. I'm not saying that you don't know when you're going to meet the person that you really love, but take it easy, take it slow. Mm-hmm. You know, I had to tell you to just calm down, Marnie. This is Yeah. So, I mean, things happen, and you can't really write down on a piece of paper when you're making your